Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of Anime Review. I am Zach Reese, your host. Joining me, as always, is Deanna
Hello.
and Nusha.
Yo,
Yo, so yeah, we're back together once again with a brand new edition. Uh, how's it going for you two?
uh, definitely got sick over the week,
Mm,
so I took a day off. I'm
I
just kind of recuperating now.
I blame our manager for that. So the
Yeah, everyone
supervisor,
definitely came to work sick.
yeah, she was passing out cough drops on Thursday and Friday because she knew she was responsible for us getting sick. It's funny because on the last podcast, I had woken up with a bad sore throat, and it kind of started to go away as we started up the podcast, but then it came back with some force, which was a pain in the ass because it was the holiday weekend, so I spent all Monday in bed. But you almost made it through the week without having to worry, and then it just hit you like a ton of bricks, it sounds like.
Yeah, I was doing fine, and then lo and behold, I had a 10-minute chat with our manager, and immediately the next day I was like, "What happened to me?"
I bet. What have I become? One
A monster.
monster.
And I ended up just taking the day off, but I'm doing better now. I should be fine by tomorrow.
Not bad for a 3-day week because we had Monday off, so for the holiday,
True, true.
not bad at all. It'd be nice if we all had 4-day weeks. That's something to think about. But
Man can dream.
yes, Deanna, things are going well for you. You're not sick, I hope.
No, I'm doing great.
Yeah,
I've been just like
All right, take
using
it easy.
you gotta put some kind of like muffler around your microphone so Nusha's coughs don't go through the mic to your face or something.
Yeah, I've been just like using hand sanitizer at work, like making sure I don't get sick.
That's smart.
They've
I've
got
been
plenty of that.
popping those vitamin C pills like crazy.
Your steroid pills.
Yeah, my steroids.
You hit the gym quite often, so that's
Now
probably
I'm
why.
sick and ripped.
Do you work out as much as you used to at all?
When I'm sick or just in general?
Oh no, I mean I thought that maybe if you haven't been exercising lately, maybe your immune system has kind of fallen a little bit. I don't know.
It might be that because it's kind of been hard to get back in the routine after Thailand. I'm still
Yeah,
trying to like
you
find
picked
my
up something
footing.
from Thailand, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you're getting Thailand. Maybe you're
I
Blame
picked up
Thailand.
I picked up the common cold from Thailand.
I mean, to be fair, you were in a entirely different country surrounded by a bunch of different people that probably would have been sick themselves. So possibilities are there that
Yeah,
you picked up something from them. So, it's like con sickness, it just kind of happens.
that's
Uh,
true. Yeah.
but on that note, let's go ahead and get into the podcast proper. So, recapping the week. Pretty much all the same shows are here that we always watch. The only thing that's missing is Tenru Series The Jaeger because they did not sub the episode, so we couldn't watch it. Also, episode 9 of High Score Girl isn't there either. They didn't sub that either, so we're missing out. And also, GeGeGe no Kitaro had a bye week, so they won't have the next episode till next week. So 3 shows, uh, technically not even 3 shows, 2 shows, but one episode we're missing also because we can still talk about High Score Girl episode 8. Also, I guess when I looked on Honeybotto's Crunchyroll page, it said the episode was delayed due to the earthquake. People don't know. It got Tokyo got not Tokyo, but Japan got hit by like a 6.4 or 6.8? I forget. Earthquake, and so things are kind of chaotic over there right now. I don't know how many shows that affects, but we'll have to see next week. But that's for then. For now, let's get into the shows that we've been watching. So first up, let's talk about Attack on Titan. This is quite the image that you guys picked out. It just looks like Aaron's chains are being broken, but what's going on here?
Okay, so in the past episodes, what happened was Aaron is being chained up, and we learned that people, if they can turn into Titans, they can eat other people who can turn into Titans and gain the special abilities they have. And so, up until now, what they've been wanting to do was transform Historia, the blonde girl there, into a Titan so she could eat Aaron and get the special ability that he has, which I think is he's what they call the coordinate. Like I think he can control other Titans with his like roar. And so they're trying to give that power to her because under control of someone with the rice royal blood, it can do something special and probably stop these Titans from continuing to reign over humanity. It's kind of still left in the dark right now. So we kind of start with this big brawl between Levi's group and Kenny's group. Kenny is guarding the Rice family while they're performing this ritual, and then Levi's group just kind of break in. We have this really well done fight scene between the two of their groups. And meanwhile, Historia's dad and Historia are just in the middle of their plans to eat Aaron. So we learn that Aaron's dad uh, stole the powers of Frida Rice, another member of the Rice family, and I think her powers were to control memories. Like we mentioned before, that the Rice had this special ability to alter the memories of certain people aside from certain noble families, and using that, they've kind of brought themselves into power. And so Aaron actually has this neat moment where he realizes that it's his father's fault that the Titans have gotten as far as they have, because if Frida had continued to use her powers, they probably could have stopped this uprising of the Titans and humanity being tied up and like secluded to the walls. And so he has this moment where he kind of breaks down and goes, "This has all kind of been for nothing. My dad's the one that started this, and you could kill me right now, and we can stop this whole issue that we've been having since episode 1 of this series." Um, and then this kind of leads to a moment where Historia questions her dad just as she's about to take the injection and become a Titan. She says, "Well, if we've been able to stop these Titans for like the hundreds of years that we've had these powers, why didn't we?" And then it kind of shows the darker side of her dad. It kind of looks like they were using these powers to not just free humanity, but kind of put themselves at the top of it.
Oh,
And so
okay.
she realizes, yeah, that there's some like conspiracy behind this. And at the last moment, she smacks the injection away and then runs up and frees Aaron. And then just as they're about to get out, her dad starts transforming into a Titan and then starts like falling on top of them, kind of like the Colossal Titan did on the second season. Um, so yeah, a lot's been happening. It's still very much focused on people, not so much just Titans breaking through the walls and having a big old fight like that, which I'm happy with because this season is tackling a lot of themes of just how dangerous not these random creatures are, but humanity can be to themselves, like kind of cannibalizing themselves. Um, and Historia's growth was kind of cool. I think all this time she's kind of just sought a family and acceptance, but she kind of realizes here that she can go her own way. She can kind of follow her own moral compass.
You can
And
go
then
your own. Oh, sorry.
I had a feeling you were gonna bust that out.
Sorry.
But yeah, and of course, this is another moment where we don't know if this is the right choice. This is just people acting the way they want to act because they feel it's right. So again, that gray morality is constantly coming up, and I thought it was a very interesting episode. It was nice to see someone like Historia or Krista finally not just be like a background character. She kind of took some agency and did what she thought was right. So I was happy with this episode. I don't know what you thought, Deanna.
Yeah, this was a really good episode. Historia really came through at the end. I was worried about her in the beginning because, like, it seemed like she was getting swayed by her father, but at the end, she was just like, fuck that, and called Aaron a crybaby, so that was very satisfying.
Yeah. Put
We
down
also,
satisfying.
Kenny's also like the type to do things in his own favor, but he also wants to keep things interesting. Otherwise, he'd be bored to death. So I thought that was a nice like new way to look at his character. So yeah, good episode. Action was great. Hanj is not looking too hot, but hopefully she'll make it through. But yeah, good episode.
That's good. It it seems to be getting a lot better as it goes along, but that's what you expect from that. I'm glad because it seems like Attack on Titans can sometimes have some issues when it gets towards the middle of the season, and so but this looks like it's still ramping it up. That image itself is pretty powerful, so I liked when you guys shared that with me. I was like, wow, this is getting pretty cool. I like it. So that's good to hear that it continues on. Speaking of dramatic moments, though, let's talk about Banana Fish. This show is probably not getting any better, is it? Every time you guys talk about the show, it's like it's going deeper and deeper into this dark hole. And so I want to hear from Deanna, what's going on with this image?
I hate doing this, but literally every image for the podcast is going to be Ash suffering.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah.
This episode was probably the most violent so far. There was a lot of bloodshed. The mansion literally turned into a war zone right after like Ash escaped from his chains and equipped himself with military gear. So Ash is trying to find AG, who's locked away somewhere in a room, and then Golzine and his men are leaving somewhere to go meet with like Republican officials and like some other people to talk about banana fish. We also get to see Suling and his crew team up with Ash's gang, and they're trying to break in and like figure out, where Shorter is, because at that point they don't know that he's dead yet, or like they haven't confirmed it. So Yue, he's actually the one who helps Ash escape. He's becoming a really interesting character since he has goals of his own, like outside of his brothers and the Chinese mafia. He's also like a foil to Ash because he was bred the same way as Ash, but Ash cares a lot about others, whereas Yue only cares about himself. So I think seeing both of them, their characters unfold will be interesting along the way. So Suling, for me, I don't know, like I feel like a lot of people like him because he's just like this kid who admires Shorter, but I felt like in this episode he took everything in kind of like a brick wall. Like he didn't really mourn for Shorter, and like the entire episode I was waiting for when he would get time to grieve, but at the end he just had this lighthearted conversation with Yue in the helicopter as they were leaving. So I hope we get more on his character because right now he has this like cool like kunai knife thing that's like wired and stuff, but then he doesn't have much going for him based on his like weak reactions. So yeah, Ash, he is definitely spiraling into darkness, and there are too many moments of foreshadowing that tell me that Ash isn't going to make it out alive in the end. So yeah,
Kinda going that
especially with
way. Yeah.
yeah, especially with AG shouting that he'll wait for Ash forever, and I'm just like,
Ooh,
oh
that's the
no.
sign. That's the death sign right there. Raise the
Yeah.
flag. Raise the flag.
And Shorter can't catch a break even after death. Abraham, the guy who created banana fish and all that, he like was sawing Shorter's skull so they can use his brain as like a sample, and I'm just like, can you stop please? Like so, and that's when like Ash came in and saw and like just like shot Abraham to death, and it was just that was when Ash just turned, or that's when he like flipped out and like became or like went on this dark path. So yeah.
Oof.
A lot has happened.
What about you, Nusha? This sounds like it's. Did you watch this episode?
I did, yeah. I definitely don't see Ash making it out of this. Like, it kind
No.
of seems like he's
That's an
he's
outsider.
resolved himself to die along with Golzine and everyone, especially like Deanna mentioned when AG's like, "Hey, are you gonna come back? I'll wait for you." And he just kind of makes no response. He just kind of looks back and then continues walking. Um, it seems like they hinted at Golzine and Arthur. We know that Arthur has had some busted up fingers and that he's constantly mentioning that it's because of Ash and that that's kind of one of the driving forces behind why he's so hell-bent on hurting him. And we also learned today that Golzine, he kind of like reaches for his shoulder and says that that wound's also aching. So it seems like there's some, I don't know if they've talked about it yet, but there's some past between them two and Ash. Maybe we'll get some backstory for that. I don't plan on seeing these two characters in a more sympathetical light. They're definitely murderers. They're definitely into child porn. They're definitely into slavery. So I don't really see them being redeemed or
Mhm.
sympathetical in this light. They've always kind of just been evil for evil's sake and then just kind of set up as like a pillar to topple for Ash. Um, yeah, Yulong also escapes with all of the banana fish, so I'm interested in what he plans on doing with that. But aside from that, this episode was more part of the course. We're gonna see Ash lose a lot more. We're gonna see more gang wars and death, and probably at the end of it, Ash is more than likely gonna die. So look forward to that.
This doesn't look like the type of show where everyone gets out scot-free, that they're all
No.
on this collision course, especially with the stuff that they're involved with. Like, even if they come through on this side of things, who's to say, like, another force might take care of them in some fashion. So, oof. Good thing for having, like, a dark, depressing show this season, so that's one thing to have.
If that's what you're into, yeah, watch Banana Fish.
Absolutely. That's what it looks like. Wow. Very, very powerful stuff. Let's go from a really good episode to a very boring episode. Cells at Work. Because, I don't know about you, Deanna. I nearly fell asleep watching this. It was adorable, and I love the platelets showing up there constantly. But this was like another kind of nothing episode where nothing really happened. Like, we learned about the macrophages and the monocytes are the same, where the monocyte is in the bone marrow, and once they leave, they become the macrophage. So, like, there was this big reveal. Like, this image I'm showing on the stream is where, like, wearing, like, this big, like, gas suit, or, like, a gas mask, and, like, this, I guess it would be more like a hazmat suit. They pull off the mask and everything, and it reveals the macrophage underneath it. It was kind of nice, and this is still kind of like comfort food at this point, but Cells at Work, I just can't. I'm having a difficult time like paying attention to the show. Like, I'm starting to multitask during an episode. What about you, Deanna? How'd you feel about this?
Yeah, I noticed that they made the intro, you know how like they introduced the body and stuff. They
Yeah.
made it longer, but they just added like a couple new scenes. So I kind of feel like they're stuffing the episode with, just scenes that we've already seen, and then because they're just running out of new
Budget.
content or something. Yeah,
this whole episode was based around a type of allergen that showed up before, but it's in bigger form. That was all it was.
Yeah, so for me, it kind of felt like the characters fell a little flat in this episode.
Yeah.
The show, it's been running out of momentum, and I feel like so are the characters' personalities, because we've already learned so much about them in the first half. So I feel like now we're kind of just like in this stale, pacing.
Yeah, it's dragging its feet towards the finish line, and which is a shame. But like we've talked about the last couple episodes, it's that it hit its peak in episode 7 with the cancer episode, which is funny to say, but like once it went past that, like everything just went downhill from there, which is a bit of a shame, and it's going to relate to another show we're going to talk about. Actually, there was another show I should have talked about before Attack on Titan if we go alphabetical order, but we'll get to that after this. But yeah, it just wasn't as nice as I hoped it to be. Like, maybe with another season it can do a lot better. Like, I don't know how long this is supposed to go. Man, if it's 2 cours, I don't know if I can stick with this. But
Same.
yeah, it's like 26 episodes or whatever of this. It's like because everything's episode to episode, but as you said, like, it's mostly the same week to week, with just a few additional bits to get you interested. So for what it's worth, it just doesn't feel like it's paced that well. It's kind of lost, as you said, all of its momentum. So hopefully you can turn things around with the next episode. But looking at the episode preview, not really. It doesn't look like it. So we'll find out.
You can say I was right to drop it now.
No. No, we're gonna admit
it's okay, Zach. Just say it.
No,
it's fine.
Let's move on.
I think.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Deanna.
I think like after the cancer episode, that would be like a good place to stop. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like, anyone who's out there who's listening to this, it's like, if you are interested in watching Cells at Work, you could stop watching after that cancer episode, because that's pretty much the peak of it. But
yeah, I was gonna say, how do you heighten from cancer? Like,
nope.
It's kind of hard to do that, and then
AIDS.
AIDS. Oh.
And then the narrator like, AIDS is when the immune system, and then
are we gonna really argue AIDS is worse than cancer? Because I don't know if I want to go down that road either. Boy. Yeah. I'm not gonna say you're right, Nusha, only because I'm gonna stick with it for now and see where it goes. Hopefully, it gets better. But by the end of this,
that's fair.
It's definitely not gonna get like a high letter grade, if anything. Let's talk about a show that I don't know where it's at in terms of grades. Angels of Death. That's the show that I should have started with, based on our history. But in any case, So coming from last episode, Rachel has been given a knife from Zach to try to find Dr. Danny to get the medicine in order to treat Zach. So she basically runs along this floor, which is Gray the Priest floor, and she falls down a hole and starts to go through all these different illusions of the different floors. Like she meets Eddie again, meets Kathy again, and there's this big thing. And then it gets into this witch trial after Gray the Priest accuses Rachel of manipulating Zack into leading her there while making him suffer in the process, like leading her up to the top floor so that she can try to escape. Essentially using him as a tool, which is, as we talked about before, Rachel and Zack are binded by the fact that they don't want to be tools. So it's this ironic twist. So this in this trial, Kathy and Eddie seem to be revived in some form. I don't know. It when they burst into butterflies, I think it might just be that it's all an illusion still. This whole thing could be an illusion. I think that's what we've been talking about all this time. I think that's what we're going towards. But in any case, Kathy and Eddie basically are opponents to having a bit, or they support the notion that Rachel is a witch, and so they both request awful deaths on Rachel on her behalf, but Rachel refuses to say anything other than some half-hearted responses, which is kind of like her entire character at this point. It's getting kind of annoying that she barely does anything anymore, and I'm kind of getting tired of her. But then Danny is supposed to be her defense, but as you'd expect, he inflicts the most damage on her character. And he accuses saying that, you know, without any soul or compassion, she steals everything around her and tries to absorb that energy instead. So what I'm just saying is that this show has been a bit exhausting. Things have kind of gone downhill for a while, and I'm lacking the energy to enjoy it. Even if I like a few of the characters, Rachel is just there, and that's been bugging me. Nusha, you did kind of allude to that in our private chat, that, you know, this most recent episode has been kind of really turning your opinion on the show. It seems like it's been changing for a while now, but this episode in particular, a lot of the characters are either becoming too cartoonish or kind of falling flat, and Zach isn't around to kind of give it that nice injection of personality that we need. Like this, I mean, I love Kathy, and I think Eddie's got some good bits there too, but it seems like at this point it's kind of hard to be emotionally invested in anybody, considering we already have seen what happened to him.
Yeah, exhausting was a very good way to explain what this episode was. It just kind of seemed like a bunch of non sequitur. Like, we have all these questions that they keep hinting at, and answers that they keep hinting at, sorry, and we're just getting nothing. Like, we're 10 episodes in at this point.
Like a recap
And
episode. It's weird. It's like, okay, I get it. She's not
yeah,
good.
it kind of was a recap. And then we still haven't learned anything. Like, why is Rachel there? Who are these murderers? Why is she so obsessed with God? It's like, I don't know. And I'm kind of tired of it because the main character, like you said, just isn't interesting enough to go through this slog with. It's just like more and more keeps getting put up on the block, and we're like, we're gonna get answers for these soon. And I feel like they're building up for one big reveal at the end, but that just kind of makes everything leading up to it kind of hollow.
It does.
Yeah, and so like, also, are we supposed to believe for a moment that Rachel has actually like wronged these criminals, like that she hurt them by defending herself and killing them? I don't know. It's just
I don't
like,
know.
I don't believe that. And it's like there's 4 murderers and like we kill, but now you're on trial because you kill. And I think in a situation like this, it's kind of the story's mission to kind of have us doubt too. Like maybe she was wrong. Maybe there is some twisted version of this where she was the one acting crazy, but like it doesn't do that. It's just kind of 4 psychos acting like psychos for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The trial didn't make any sense because it was already a dud from the very beginning. It's like, of course they're gonna say what they said. They're all murderers that got wronged by Rachel, and so like it was kind of like this is immediate mistrial situation. So I didn't
exactly.
Nothing would have gone right anyway, and so unless they do this thing where Rachel's the one that killed everybody and dug up all the graves, and like she's all these different personalities in one, like this multiple personality situation, like she's schizophrenic. I don't know where exactly they're gonna go with this, because
but like point, you see what I mean? It's like if that was the big reveal at the end, then like everything leading up to it has just been like fluff, you know? It's like Sure, at the end of like a movie, if there's a big twist, that's kind of cool. But if I have to go back and watch like a whole 12 episode series again just for it to make sense with the big reveal at the end, it kind of just makes my first viewing of it a slog.
It's it's weird that I've become more sympathetic towards Kathy than I do with Rachel, and I don't know if they wanted that. I wouldn't say sympathetic. It's more like, I mean, Eddie, of course, he's got his own twisted fantasies about, like even Kathy was calling him out on it. It's like, so because you were dumped, you're gonna be acting like this, really? So I was like, yeah, Eddie, come on. It's it was
Yeah.
a one directional love. But I just like Kathy because her voice acting is pretty great. So it's like water torture. It's like this great scene where her eyes get really close to the screen and bulge out. She's over the top in the best way. Unlike Danny, who is just like my tongue's like 10 feet long and I look like a snake and I look
Yeah.
scared.
Good
Yeah,
thing Rachel's our main character.
yeah. She's not a great. I mean, I get that she's a main character and she was from a. I mean, this is all based on a video game. She wasn't supposed to have like this very deep personality, I guess, because we're supposed to sort of self-insert ourselves, but at the same
Yeah.
time, in an anime, she's like, I've got God, and what do I have if I don't have God? It's just, I don't know. It's
I
like,
don't
you're
know.
in
I'm
this.
probably dropping it to be honest.
You've
But
got to. We've got a couple more episodes, man. You got to stick with this. I got only one
how
other
many
person.
more episodes? I think it's like 16 episodes or something.
We'll stick with this, Nusha. Come on, you got to stick with this. We got to complain together.
I don't wanna.
Come on, you got to stick with this. You're not gonna watch Cells at Work with us. At least stick with me on this. Want a show and see what happens. We got to see this
So
train
much.
wreck to the end, man. Come on,
All right, all right.
we've got to deal with it.
Is it really 16 episodes? That's such a weird cutoff for
That's what
like
I
a
read.
season.
I looked it up. I was like, how much more of this do I have to go through? If it's only 2 more episodes, I can maybe do it. But I heard 16, but we'll see.
Yeah. I'm not sure either, honestly, but there's been some weird cutoffs as well. Like Cardcaptor Sakura was like 22 episodes or something like that. It was, I don't know what it was. It was a weird cutoff as well. But let's move on to the next show that we could talk about. Let's talk about something happy, something nice. Let's talk about Ash. Let's talk about Free. And look at this pretty boy that we got with the purple eyes. What's going on here, Deanna?
I really liked this episode because everything's all lighthearted now, and before the angst tired me out real quick, especially when I'm already watching another sports angsty AF anime.
Yeah.
So
we'll get to that.
this episode we get new characters. One of them being a foreigner right there. His name is Albert. He speaks only English, and it is dubbed by a native English speaker, but
Ooh.
the voice acting still kind of sounds stiff, so it's not perfect. But at least they're, hiring someone who speaks English. I appreciate the studio also for showing foreigner mannerisms in Japan. So Albert, he meets up with Haru and they're eating at a cafeteria, and Albert struggles to hold chopsticks. He doesn't say itadakimasu. So it shows more authenticity to his character. It's not just like he suddenly knows how to speak Japanese or he suddenly knows how to hold chopsticks. So that I can appreciate. The other new character that we meet is the little sister, Isuzu. She's the little sister of the Mikoshiba brothers, and they're this obnoxious these obnoxious brothers. So she is the captain of her high school swim club. So she visits her brother's college for a practice, but to observe the college team on how they run their practices. So she sees Haru and challenges him to a race, and I was getting excited because I'm like, oh my god, are we gonna see a female racing against Haru and stuff?
Yeah.
But of course, the brother just drags her away, and he's just like, next time, and I'm just like, oh damn it,
Oh.
at least give me a race, or if anything, give me a female version of Free.
There's plenty of those. They just don't look as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of for a different reason. I guess they're both titillating in some fashion, but that's it.
So this Albert guy is apparently a god tier swimmer because he beats Haru in the freestyle race, and everyone's so shocked because they thought Haru was going to be the best swimmer. So he and Haru share this admiration for each other, and they kind of recognize that both of them are really natural swimmers. So to see Haru lose in a race that he's supposed to be really good at, that's gonna probably be what the next few episodes are going to be about, him struggling to overcome this other swimmer who's just like way better than him. So
Yeah.
competition's gonna get tougher. And I thought Albert would be some like evil snob, but he's actually a really chill dude. So yeah.
That's good to hear. I mean, that's the one thing that these shows have done so well at. That these things kind of carry over from episode to episode. They just don't stop at one place. So I'm glad to hear that there's somebody new to give everyone else notice. And obviously for him being a foreigner, he traveled a long way just to be able to compete with everybody else. That's pretty good to see. Well, yeah, no, we can continue on with the conversation about the shows you've been watching because how is Gintama doing?
So, man, this was a really funny episode despite the climax last time. So you know how I said there was like a time skip and Shinpachi's older and he's kind of like taking on this persona that's reflective of Gintoki. So now he's like he takes over Odd Jobs, which is their group name, and a lot of the side characters come back, but like in very hilarious ways. And they keep hammering this joke about the Final Fantasy ending, where characters end up with each other, or like the shonen trope of the time skip, and then everyone is like married or has children, like Naruto. So they like kind of make fun of that. They make fun of that, and so like the show kind of sets up, or the episode sets up some characters where it seems like they're married, but then in actuality, like one of the characters, he's actually married to a gorilla, while the other character, she's not actually pregnant, but she just ate a lot of food. So it's kind of like that bait, like, oh, she's pregnant, but actually no, she just ate a lot. So,
Wow.
And then people have been talking about like the hero of Earth, which we think is Gintoki, but then it actually turns out to be Madao, the unemployed dude that everyone like makes fun of. And like he has this like weird but like gaudy appearance, and he's like soaking up the glory and taking like everyone else's credit as the hero, and like it was just so funny. And then we also get a flashback to what happened right as the spacecraft was about to hit Earth. So Earth was saved because there's actually one ship that managed to hold off the impact, so everyone was okay.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so the flashback, Odd Jobs, they go back to their destroyed home, and Gintoki asks the kids what they want to do now that the war store Sadaharu. Sadaharu, he's actually this like he's in a really small orb, just like sleeping. So he didn't actually disappear. So she wants to find out how to like wake him up and get him back to normal. Whereas Shinpachi, he kind of made up reasons to like reasons like he wants to bring back his dad's dojo, and
Yeah.
like he just brings up all these reasons as a way to not hold Gintoki back, because he's aware that Gintoki has something else that he needs to accomplish on his own. So that's why Shinpachi is kind of like the main character in this last like mini arc, as you might call it. But it seems like Shinpachi wants to carry on Gintoki's legacy or leave memories of him alive by like wearing Gintoki's white robes. So yeah, the end to this episode, it was like the icing on the cake in terms of ridiculous ways characters could end up in 2 years.
Yeah.
Because there's one character named Zura or Katsura, and he becomes Zuramp, which is a parody of Donald Trump. So,
Oh boy.
so Edo becomes this like political regime based on this like Donald Trump character, and it's just so funny. And he has the like this like Hitler like mustache, but I'm like, okay.
Wow, that's the thing. Like
That's
the
how
series
it's going
is always.
so far.
Yeah, this entire series has been kind of like that.
Sounds like so much is going on.
Yeah, like it got serious, but then now it's like back to its fanatics. So
That's impressive.
Was that not the final arc then?
it's part of the final arc. That's what like the manga right now is, just like all these parodies that keep coming up. It's not like, I don't know. It says it's ending, but I feel like there has to be
Wow.
much more to than just a few chapters left of the series. So I don't know.
Huh. Well, maybe one day I'll pick up this
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
multi-hundred spanning series.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like how it's all the series has always been very topical with the humor, and because they cut those episodes so recently, it's always good for them to do parodies, and I like to see that kind of stuff. That's pretty great.
Hmm.
Imagine it's like all hands on deck every time they got like material to work with. So Kitaro Silver Soul 2 continues to be great, it sounds like. And especially when it's moving away from this mini arc to see where things go from here. I'll be very curious. Hopefully we won't get too dramatic again. But speaking of drama, this is my transitions. It's speaking of, that's how I do transitions around here.
It's worked so far.
Hanibado. So, things started off kind of innocently enough. We get to see a very young Nagisa, which was pretty adorable. But we only get to see her for briefest of moments. And that's kind of like this episode. It was this whole episode is more focusing on the boys, which was nice to see because they haven't really been given any kind of spotlight, even if they're trying just as hard as everybody else is. It's this moment where it's like Ishihara is getting all the praise. Hayama, on the other hand, means really well and has been practicing a ton. It was kind of nice to see how Hayama was the one who taught Ishihara the sport itself from the very beginning. They've known each other for so long. And the other parts of the episode was also about Nagisa, about how there's a lot of people who have this concern over her knee. Once again, I don't know why I have to keep repeating this every week, but it was nice. It would be nice if they actually gave her some coaches tape, because if everyone knows her knee isn't great, including other coaches, they've recognized the problem that she has, and so they've been kind of taking advantage of that. It's not like it'd be a secret if she wore tape on her knee, so I was kind of confused about that whole twist. And then also Hayama was immediately friend zoned towards the end of the episode. It was kind of like, oh. Sorry about you, guy. So that was pretty crazy. Is the stream still going fine, by the way, guys?
It's
Should
kind
be.
of like pausing on my end.
Yeah, I just dropped a ton of frames, so just give me a second here while I try to figure out what the problem is. Am I sounding fine to you?
Hold on, I have to go through this ad again. You sound fine over here, but let me see on the stream.
Yeah.
Prime Video, cool, got it. Okay.
Okay, I think we're okay. I've seen like a lot of drop frames, like a ton of them.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can
Okay.
hear you on the stream.
I mean, it's just a static image, so it's not like it really matters. It was it's just audio, so it's not like you guys need to see this in motion for a single image. I just want to make sure nothing was happening with my voice. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. What'd you think about this, Nusha?
Yeah, this was a really interesting episode. I wasn't really expecting them to switch focus to the boys, but I appreciated what they did with those two characters.
And they lost immediately. It's like in the same episode. Like I thought they would go further, but nope.
No, it kind of seemed like they were hinting at the fact that he would lose, especially with this whole like talent versus hard work theme they've been setting up. Like,
Fair.
and then you see this character who's working really hard. You can kind of expect him to lose against someone who's just kind of talented. But I did like them bringing that theme up again. And Hayama has this kind of cool line where he says that his talent is just being bullheaded when it comes to this sport.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something we got a pretty good example of in the beginning of the series. And I think it's something I mentioned a while ago when we were talking about the first couple episodes where Nagisa didn't really have everything she needed to be as good as she could at the sport, kind of like Ayano, but the way she fell in love with the sport, the way she was able to just kind of devote herself to it completely is kind of like an innate talent on its own that she didn't really appreciate until she had her match with the coach. And so it was nice to see like that theme also kind of transferred over to Hayama, a character that up until now we didn't really get too much screen time for. And yeah, speaking of Nagisa, I kind of just want this story to be about her. I'm kind
Yes.
of over Ayano, and I feel like the only reason I say that is because we haven't really seen her change much. It's kind of just been more par of the course where, like I mentioned last week, something that was interesting was that we see everyone develop while she kind of falls deeper and deeper into like this void. But she's kind of just been like stagnant for a while now. We haven't really seen her faced with any challenges or moments where she's forced to grow after her, or not grow, but kind of devolve in this sense. But since her match with like Connie, And I don't know. I'm hoping she gets a little more screen time. I'm hoping she gets a bit of development, and we might be getting that now that her mom's in the picture again.
Yeah,
But
that's kind of that's kind of what it feels like. I mean, this is the actual moment I think you're talking about. Is that towards the end, it's like her mom was asking Ayano to come back to leave Japan with her, and it's like you could take that one of two ways. Where it's like, one, she's being very manipulative again, and makes her like it's a very easy way for her to take full advantage of Ayano again, and have her compete elsewhere on her behalf or something. Like, I don't know what the situation there is, but it seems like she is doing what she's always been doing. Or two, it was innocent and we don't know. Either way, still not sold on Ayano's mom. How'd you think
yeah,
about this, Deanna?
I think Ayano not developing as a character has something to do with the fact that none of the other characters are actually addressing that she's,
Rico did a
being
little
a
bit. She's like,
psycho.
something's wrong. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, like they keep saying she's been acting strange, but they're not doing anything about it. And Elena, like, who's her childhood friend, she has been in the background, like pretty much sidelined. And so it's kind of like,
What's
why
up with
aren't you
that?
stepping in to stop her from acting
yeah.
like an asshole? So
It's not just kind of different. She like literally walks in and like sits like a delinquent and goes like, "Man, these players suck." And it's
yeah.
like that's not a little different. She's pulled a
Hey,
complete heel
something wrong.
turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like something's off about Ayano. I don't know.
It's
And
like,
she's like
no.
smoking a cigarette behind the wall. Like
She was
I don't
about
know.
to, and she was like just hanging out in the bleachers with everybody else. Like, I don't, I totally understand that. It's like, I don't get, well, this isn't like 100% obvious. Like, if the thing is like, that's what kind of frustrates me sometimes when you're watching a show, is that if it's something completely obvious to you, but it isn't to the people in the show itself, it makes it feel like they're insulting your intelligence. Like, yeah, we know something's wrong. Why aren't you doing something about this? Like, if I was in high school, I would totally recognize this stuff right away. You're not like in elementary school. You know what's going on here. You've had other friends
Yeah.
probably that had these other problems, and you try to deal with them that way. Why is she such a difficult, like, Rubik's cube to unravel? Like, I don't get it. So
She's so complex.
I know she's a multidimensional character that's so deep and involved. It's like, yeah. I mean, I don't know if everybody knows what happened to her and her mom. It's like, it seems like it's like you would think that'd be like a national storyline. It's like this top player abandons her family. It's like, I think that would have been all over the news. But in
That's a
this,
good point.
yeah, I mean, it's not like she was secret. She was competing in nationals, and so like people would know her daughter as well, especially how far she got. But in this case, it's just like, like, I don't know what's the problem. Her mom shows up randomly in a tournament, never seen never seen again. Like, we didn't see her until she showed up at the house. It's like, did anyone address this, raise this topic? Like, what happened to
Yeah.
her? I don't know.
I hate that we didn't get too much of their relationship in this episode, and it just feels like the studio's really trying to save the family trauma for the last episode or
They're really
something.
letting us sink in, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why Nagisa seemed like a much more interesting character because she's had like so many moments, like her first match with Aino, the match with the coach, like the way she talks with Rico, her match with Nozomi. Like she's had all these moments where she's faced challenges and we've learned more about her and she's grown. And then you kind of have Aino, who we're just kind of waiting for this big flashback dump to kind of give her more context.
It's pretty bizarre, and as you said, Nagisa, she's developed so much. Like, even in the first episode, she felt like she was the main character because she lashed out at everybody around her because she was upset, and she understood what her problem was, as opposed to Yano, who apparently doesn't know what the problem is, and just, it seems like, it's like, I'm just kind of brooding here. Nagisa has lost a lot, and she's worked so hard, and so you empathize way more with her than you would with Ayano, who's, as you said, naturally gifted and able to pull through all that stuff. Like, I get she was abandoned as a child, and can't imagine how that feels. At the same time, Nagisa just seems like way more interesting and way more developed than anybody else around her. So I don't know what the situation is regarding that. So, also, Yu was pretty good in this episode too. Like, I don't know what my feelings are. This is confusing. Do I just like you, or do I think I think you're cool for working so hard? I don't know.
I think it was very appropriate for her character where it's like, do these emotions mean I like you? And then they kind of have this chat and she's like, no, I don't like you. And she walks away. And I'm like,
This
that
It's
kind
like,
of works
okay,
so well for
bye.
her.
yeah, it's like, okay,
No, I just
bye.
respect you. Bye.
I like how Hayama was just like, huh. Well, anyway, it's like,
Yeah.
immediately friend zone. I don't know if he had any feelings for her in return, but
Yeah.
like that whole
I kind of like that anticlimax.
Yeah, that whole dynamic is like, I wonder if this is what My Hero Academia is going to turn into. It's like, do I like you? No, I don't know. Maybe not. Araka is just like, Deku, I just think you're cool.
Nah, I just respect you.
Yeah, I just respect you. I know what you're going through. Let's move on for another topic of respect to High Score Girl. Boy, this was a weird episode. I feel still continue to be feeling bad for Hidaka. She was ditched again in favor of a tournament, and she's like, you're insensitive, you're self-centered, you don't care about other people. Haru exemplified that in this episode. I feel like it's kind of hard to like him sometimes because of this hard-headed behavior that he's been promoting so much. He wants to ditch everybody and just go play games. And so instead of hanging out with everybody else and enjoying the sights of this school trip that they're on, he decides to attend a Street Fighter 2 tournament in Kansai, where he faces off against Ono inadvertently. And so he may have won the tournament, but then he gets the shit kicked out of him by Ono. And so it's kind of nice to see that he was finally put in his place. Ono really messed him up, so that was kind of nice. What I found out later after watching this, so we got an image, of course, that Ono is kind of happy and she's clutching the little ring that Haru gave her before she had first left to Los Angeles in the first place a number of episodes ago. Apparently the whole scene that we saw, you and I know Shaw saw in the anime, is way more emotionally charged in the manga compared to the anime, so I'll have to give it a read later on once we're done with the show. But I don't know. It was kind of hard to tell like what exactly was going on. Like maybe I just don't have the best perception. Like I didn't fully understand what was happening. I was kind of lost at sometimes in this episode. It's like, okay, Ono's arcade cabinet was busted, so she couldn't do the punches as Zangief, and so she couldn't do half of the moves that she wanted to. Still ended up losing to Haru, but it didn't matter at the end of it. It was like a meaningless victory in the grand scheme. But then Haru gets beat up a lot, gets punched and kicked and elbowed and all this shit. But I don't know, man. It's getting a little hard to follow sometimes, and I just feel like I'm starting. If it's gonna be just focused on Haru and Ono from now on and not Hidaka, like it's kind of hard to like them sometimes as characters. I don't know about you.
I think that's just kind of like a natural byproduct of having a character that doesn't speak. There's a lot that's just like left up in the air, and like we're kind of left to make assumptions. But I kind of understood the frustration because on one point her not talking kind of works because the whole dynamic between Ono and Haru is that they can literally only communicate through games. Like that's how they get along. That's how they met, and that's kind of how they learn more about each other. And then in this tournament, where he was finally supposed to have this long-awaited rematch, like they still couldn't really communicate anymore because she's apparently grown so good at this game that she can put up a good fight against him with no punch buttons, which in Street Fighter is like you can't play.
No,
and so
can't do it.
Yeah,
So
exactly, yeah. And so like they even mentioned, like without that you can't do the banishing flat, which is like Zangief's best move to get through fireballs and stuff,
yeah,
which is
double
what
arrow.
Guile's all about.
Yeah.
So she literally didn't have the tool she needed to win, and she still put up this like amazing fight. And I think the frustration was like, I busted my ass getting good at this game, so when you came back we could finally have this quote unquote chat, and you've only gone and like widened the gap. And so I think that's where the frustration came from.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that she can't talk in that sense because thematically it kind of works with them only talking through video games. But in instances like this, it's kind of hard to get a read on what she's thinking.
No, because she can't talk, as you said. So it's like it's hard
Exactly,
to understand their emotions at all, other than their facial expressions. I mean, there's something to be said about nonverbal communication and how far that can go. She does grunt and groan sometimes, so you get kind of the feeling about her where she's at emotionally. But I think that I just kind of, I guess my takeaway from this episode is that I like seeing Haru getting beat up because he can be really frustrating as a person, how he is so oblivious to the feelings of everyone around him. And so, yeah, I mean, he's still a young kid, so that makes some sense. He doesn't understand those points because, yeah, he's still kind of coming into tune with his own personal emotions, and then finally you have to deal with everybody else around you. All they can think about is the fact that he wants to play video games and how easily he can play video games and how close is the place that I can go to play more video games. And so I totally get that, where he's coming from on that one. Um, and I'll be curious to see where they go from here. Like I
Yeah.
mentioned before, we couldn't see episode 9, which would have been premiering this week. So next week we might have to catch up with a couple episodes. And considering we're so far into the series right now, I'm very I still love the show for sure.
Oh, I'm still excited every week. And also, just a quick side note: Meow's become like a genuinely good friend since
Oh my
since middle
gosh, he
school
was
started.
awesome! Like in this
I
one, you know.
love him. Yeah, he was such a little shit in the beginning, but he's become like genuinely a good friend to Haruo in this season or this little arc.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like he's covering for Haru when he's got to leave, and then he can read people's emotions way better. Like Hidaka, he knew immediately that she is interested in him, and so I'm curious to see where he goes. He's very mature for his age, you know, for all that he
He
comes
is.
up with.
Yeah, I didn't expect that, seeing how he was in elementary school, but
Yeah, he's a
it's
lot
cool.
different for sure. Well, Nushal, let's keep up the conversation with you. How's Muyo and Roji's Supernatural Investigation Bureau? I don't know what the full title is, but how's that going for you?
Uh, so yeah, I think I mentioned last week we were focusing more on like the grand narrative, and this week we kind of switched back to it kind of goes back to form for series like this and Kitaro, where it's more of like an investigation of the week with like the weekly spirits haunting a spot and they have to oust it. Um, and I honestly thought they did a really good job with this one. Basically, what happens is Muhyo, Roji, and Nana, they go to this onsen where an author is suspecting a ghost from suspecting that a ghost is inhabiting his body because he wakes up every night and manuscripts for uh, a novel that he hasn't been writing it just appears on his desk. And so basically he's become renowned for this book that he wrote called Butterfly of the Night,
Oh.
and this is kind of what he's known for, but in reality, he's not the one who wrote that. It was the spirit of this author from the Meiji period called Zansetsu.
Are you saying
Who?
this is a ghostwriter? Like literally a
Yeah,
ghostwriter?
I'm so mad. I did not even make that connection, but yeah, it's a ghostwriter.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So yeah, basically, there's this spirit Zansetsu from the Meiji period who was an author, and he was kind of only an author by name. Like he spent all his time slacking off with friends and not really writing, just kind of saying he was an author, maybe making a book, and then he's hit with tuberculosis, which at this time, of course, is untreatable,
Yeah, it's
and so
dead
he
now.
seeks treatment. Yeah, pretty much. And so he seeks treatment by going to a hot spring, the same hot spring that our characters are at now, that's said to like lengthen your lifespan and treat whatever disease you have. And there he meets this woman, Yuri, who is at the same hot spring for the same reason, the same disease, and they kind of fall in love with each other. And of course, she passes. And then, in the face of that grief, Zansetsu finally writes his first story. But before he's able to finish it, it's kind of like an autobiographical piece. Before he can finish it, he passes away. And then
Hmm.
the regret he feels for not being able to finish his first story, especially one that's so near and dear to him, causes him to kind of become a spirit and roam around this onsen looking for an author that he can possess that can finish his story. Um, and so we get this very like heartbreaking story for this character, but Mukio is still adamant about sending him to hell because the longer a spirit stays in the world of the living, the more crazed they become. They lose their sanity and they go out and just start harming people. And so basically what happens is he kidnaps Nana. They break in. There's not really much of a conflict. It's more emotional, the developments that are happening here. And then what happens is, as they're finally about to defeat him, as he's about to be dragged away to hell, he begs the author, the one that he's been possessing to write these stories, he begs the author to finish the last book of this series that he's writing. And then the author has this neat moment where he kind of he's been having the same issues as Ansetsu, where he's been trying to write all this time, but nothing has really come out of it.
No.
He's kind of an author in name, just like Zansetsu was, because he hasn't been in relationships. He hasn't really lived a very fulfilling life. And so he's like, how can I write a story that's emotionally resonant when I haven't lived an emotionally resonant life? And then the spirit kind of gives him this speech where it's like, it's those exact emotions of like solitude, guilt, and isolation that can actually be put to good use in a story. And then as he's being dragged away, there's like this really cool scene where the author he runs out and then screams like a line that he thought of for the end of the book. And that's kind of like the first writing he's done since he's come to this onsen that he was happy with. And the spirit says, "That sounds amazing. Put that in the book." And so it was a really interesting story. I was kind of surprised by how emotional it got just with these characters that I have known for 20 minutes. It didn't even focus on Mufio and Roji. It was mostly about these two authors and like the feelings of just being stagnant or lacking confidence in your work or stuck in something. And that kind of resonates with I feel with a lot of people who are trying to create their own stories or create something they can be proud of.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I thought it was very, very well done. If I had some small gripes with the episode, it was an onsen episode, so you can believe that there was fan service of the only female character we have in the series right now.
Go figure.
And that's kind of a trope, but like what do you expect from a series that was originally written in like the early 2000s?
Yeah.
And lastly, I did appreciate what they were able to do with these two characters that we just met, but I do want to learn more about Mufio and Roji, and so I'm hoping we get a little more of that later. But as of right now, he's kind of just a Superman character. He's always composed. He always has the perfect answer, so Mufio can just bust in and fix up whatever's happening. And so maybe the story is going to be more about these spirits and how their presence like alters people around them. But yeah, I thought it was very well done. I'm excited to see more of these like weekly spirit stories if they're all going to be this emotionally dense. So I was happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's what a lot of people go through. It's like, what can I write about if I've never experienced that particular thing I'm writing about? And so, like,
Mhm.
I'm sure a lot of artists and authors go through the same experience. So people can relate to that story, I'm sure, on many levels. Well, Nusha, we'll give you a little bit of a break from talking so much. We'll move
Thank
into
you.
yes. 'Cause I didn't want to move into Planet With because I know that you're not feeling well. We both aren't. But let's move instead to we went Tsukumogami. Deanna, how's the show been getting? We talked like last episode wasn't so great, but how was this week's episode in comparison?
So speaking of ghosts, ghosts also appear in this episode,
Oh,
which is
good.
interesting. Which is interesting because we already have Skumogami, which are spirits. So in this episode, a ghost possesses an incense burner and turns into a Skumogami because he wants to see his wife again. Um, and so we have a client of the siblings who wants to seek revenge because him and his wife were driven out of the village after a great fire, and his wife died as a result. So uh, this one is a lot more entertaining in the fact that the previous episode, this or wait, sorry. So so this episode is more entertaining because the Skumogami get to scare the man who drove the husband and wife away as revenge rather than letting the husband try to poison him.
Ooh.
So yeah, so like we've always gotten parallels between Skumogami and humans, but in this episode, it just kind of feels like the Skumogami were added as an afterthought. So the show is apparently more invested in humans rather than Skumogami. But yeah, we still don't know much about Satoru. We're getting glimpses of Oko's feelings about the whole ordeal, about like her um, wanting to. I don't know. I don't know if she's actually really like in love with him or whatever. It's still unclear, but uh, that's something that I hope the show will address in
Yeah.
the last few episodes. But I also noticed in the picture that right there, in the background, there's like a screen of like a swan unfurling its wings,
Oh.
and then that is like cleverly overlapping with the ghost of his wife.
Oh.
So it makes
I
it
see
looks
it.
like she has wings. So I just noticed that, and I'm just like, oh,
It's a nice touch.
is that a coincidence or is that just clever staging? So
Maybe that
um,
looks really nice though. Yeah, I love how they work together.
yeah. So next week's episode, they're bringing Konosuke back. So I guess the studio really likes Konosuke. So
That's
we'll
good.
see how that goes.
I mean, if the show's been better as a result of that, then that's for the best too. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. All right, Nusha, back to you then. After that short break.
Caught
Uh,
my breath, had some water stretched.
yes, of course. Planet Width continues to be what it seems like a highlight of the season. And now we've got a picture of somebody with a horn in front of them, or like some traffic cone. I don't know what's going on here. What's what's going on with this? How's the show? What was the episode like for you?
This episode was very, very much a highlight of this week, and I think that's kind of natural because we're reaching like a climax for this plot. And so basically, what happens is the final paladin, which is Benika's partner, Yosuke, who is actually the brother to the superior of hers that was shot when she was a cop, heads off to seal the world finally. And then while he's trying to do that, he's intercepted by Torai and some other paladins who are actually fighting to protect Earth. And so they're easily kind of dispatched. And then while that's happening, Kuroi just kind of remains in his room, refusing to fight. Because after his home was lost and after he has no more desire for revenge, and the planet he's living on now is going to be sealed, there's no real point for him to get out there and put himself in danger. And so basically the world gets sealed. Basically what they've been trying to do this whole time is these UFOs that have been dropping down since like the first episode. What they do is they lull people into these dreams where all of their past traumas, all of their bad experiences as children are kind of resolved, and so that kind of and all of their dreams are also kind of realized. And so in these dreams there's no real drive for them to improve, and so that kind of stops them from growing or evolving, which is what the Sealing faction has been trying to do since episode 1. The only one who's not affected by this, of course, is our main character, and that's because an alien that's kind of been following him around for the past few episodes, who kind of just has the power to, I guess, have him not be affected by this, uh, basically just gets him out of being sealed. And so what happens is, kind of through some asshole he lets Kuroi project his voice into the dreams of all these people on Earth who have just kind of who've been lulled into like peace and who don't want to progress or advance anymore. And so
Hmm.
he kind of proceeds to spew out this speech that you can kind of tell he's not really into. It's more of a platitude, and he tells everyone that what they're experiencing now is just a dream, and that only by realizing that and choosing to leave of their own volition can they unseal themselves and continue to grow, not just as a race, but as people. And so he kind of has this interesting moment where he even says, "Hey, like, I know what you're going through. If I was stuck in a dream where my planet, my family, my friends were all still alive, I wouldn't want to leave either." And so he's like, in his head, you can kind of tell he doesn't expect them to do anything. He's just kind of doing this because it's his obligation. And he says, if anyone wants to leave the dream, all they have to do is put their hands up, and then this alien friend of his can pull them out of this ceiling. And to his surprise, a lot of people actually put up their hands. And that's kind of something he wasn't expecting. And seeing this kind of shows him that he's been living in the past, much like these people are, where because he's lost his home, his planet, he's kind of he's constantly been fantasizing about a world where that didn't happen, and he's kind of stopped growing as well. And so he goes he learns about this, of course. He has like this renewed vigor to save the world, and then he goes off and fights Yosuke, and there's this huge mech battle that's actually very well done, and then he saves the planet from being sealed.
Ooh.
And so I had a lot of gripes with his character up until this point. I think I had mentioned that he kind of just seemed like a one-dimensional Avenger, and I never really got why he didn't fight for Earth despite having friends and family on it. But this episode kind of gave some context to it because his family and friends and planet were pretty much everything he had. And when that was gone and all he lived for was beating the dragon, and once he did that, there was no real point for him to continue struggling.
Yeah.
And so, but he kind of sees that Earth was kind of put in the same situation where they stopped growing, they realized all their dreams, but they still wanted to progress. They still wanted to evolve. They didn't want to live in the past like he was. And so he kind of uses that as a life lesson to go off and protect the planet. And he has this interesting exchange with Yosuke where Yosuke kind of says, the only way he's experienced a lot of loss and pain in his life as well, and he goes, the only way we can move on from this is to just continue dreaming for the rest of our days. Why continue with this painful existence when we can just have these idealized visions for ourselves? And Kuroi has this really, really well delivered line, I think, where he says, no matter how much it hurts, the past is the past. Even if in reality my home is gone, reality is still my home. And I thought that was really thematically relevant. Like, this whole story has kind of become about accepting the traumas and issues that you've had in your past and using those as like a catalyst to grow. And that if you constantly dream of a world where stuff like that didn't happen, it's akin to just not growing and kind of regressing as a person. And I feel like that's a theme we get a lot nowadays in a bunch of stories, but seeing it presented in this way where personal growth is being likened to literally the evolution of mankind as a whole kind of puts it on this really interesting grand scale that I haven't really seen before. And so this episode was really well done. I'm interested to see where they take it from here because he's still got two more big villains to fight, which is the boss of the Ceiling faction and then the dragon at the end of it. And I'm interested to see if they can continue heightening like the development, the growth, the emotion that they had in this episode with these last two fights. So I'm very interested. This has very much been like a highlight show for this season for me.
It sounds amazing, and it's one show that I definitely want to get to once this is all said and done, uh, because it sounds like they really are tackling all the different characters, all the different angles you could come from in a show that was first off like this weird sci-fi bent with weird looking mechs, and so I'm glad to see that it's grown so much since then in many respective ways. So that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it after dropping some other shows and picking up this one. So that's good to know. Also, apologies earlier. You might have heard a slamming door. I forgot to mute my mic when I went away, so I apologize for that. But let's get into the last show of the past week, and that's My Hero Academia. Rather interesting episode all around. First off, damn it, Minotaur was on the list. That sucks. But the big reveal was that Todoroki, Bakugo, and Shiketsu didn't make it on the list. And that was the big thing, of course, that they let their egos get ahead of them, and they weren't able to do so. But thankfully, they've got they've got a 3-month course they can attend while going with the rest of their studies to hopefully get their provisional hero license. Anyway, some other things that happened here was that yes, Cammy was Toga, as we kind of figured she was. It was pretty strong about that. This is also the first time we get to find out what Toga's actual quirk is. Since before it was never really told, although we kind of got an idea of it anyway. Apparently when she absorbs the blood, or drinks the blood, I guess, she's a vampire, of another person, she takes control, she basically becomes them. Just their look. So it's like a little, like a disguise, if you will. I don't know how much that gets into, like if she also can use their quirks or whatever. I imagine that might be what can happen, but you can kind of tell where all this can go when she's making everybody turn against each other. So I'm curious to see how that'll happen. We also get to see the return of All For One deep inside his underground bunker of a jail cell, where All Might meets him down there and wants to learn more about what his motivations are, what's actually happening here, what do you plan to get out of all this. And he kind of talks about how the villains have, now that they've seen All Might being brought down and no longer able to transform, although he kind of does every now and then, the villains have started to organize and will begin to fight amongst themselves in a struggle for dominance. And so you can kind of see where a lot of that, a lot of those fights, a lot of those brawls can spill out into the public, and so that can be a big trouble for, of course, all the heroes as well. And everyone is not happy about Endeavor being the hero. Go figure. I'm kind of feeling like he's going to turn at one of these days, really. And something that we already kind of knew, Bakugo knows what's going on here. He unravels pretty much everything regarding All Might and Deku, how he gave him his quirk, and how that's the only reason that he's gotten his powers. And of course, Bakugo having his head full of steam and can't accept the fact that Deku can be better at him at anything. Next week, it seems like we're going to get Deku versus Bakugo. It's going to be really good, I expect. I expect plenty of catharsis because of Bakugo's superiority complex. And so it sounds like we're getting to the I don't want to see the Naruto and Sasuke moment, but it's gonna be pretty good. I'm really excited for this bit of news here. This kind of fight that's gonna happen here, and I bet it's gonna be very well animated. What'd you think about this episode, Deanna?
So I heard that the manga did a better job of portraying the conversation between Deku and Bakugo. Is
Oh,
that true, Nusha?
It's been a while since I read it, but I don't know. I thought it was handled pretty well. They did a good job of kind of backwards engineering how Bakugo is able to figure out Deku has his power. I'd have
Hmm.
to reread it.
Yeah. This might be the first time I've heard Bakugo speak so calmly to Deku.
yeah, that's a plus.
Especially when he's like challenging him, so that's like character development right there.
Oh yeah, imbued.
Uh, my favorite moment in this episode though was when Deku texted All Might saying that he got his provisional license, and it was so cute because like All Might's face lit up, and it was just like best dad ever.
He was
So
happy. Yeah.
yeah, but so yeah, we got confirmation that Toga disguised herself as Cammy. So what the hell happened to Cammy?
Yeah, I guess she's gone. Because she
She's
has to absorb
yeah.
somebody's blood, so I assume she's dead. Maybe.
Nusha?
Are you waiting for me to answer? I don't
Yeah.
want to.
You don't wanna? Well, we're gonna find out
I
later.
don't want to spoil.
Are we gonna find out later? I
You'll
assume
find out.
Yeah, we'll
Oh,
find out
okay.
later. Okay, okay. All right. Hope she's okay.
Okay.
Hope she's okay, 'cause she seems like a nice person to have. She's
Despite never meeting her yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, her face looks fine. I don't know. What do you want me to say? She's got big
I
lips.
like her face.
Yeah, I like her face.
looks fine,
Her
so I
face
wish
looks
for her
nice.
to be okay.
She's got a nice face. I don't know.
I'm really excited to see more of Toga because I kind of like the dynamic she has with Ochako, where it's like she's kind of been heroic. Or sorry, I always have a hard time saying her name. Ochako is kind of having this inner conflict where she doesn't know if she likes or admires Deku. And then on the side of that, you see Toga, who's kind of that conflict personified, not just in her like design and the way she behaves, but literally her quirk too. She copies and emulates people. And so I'm interested to see where that dynamic goes. Also, Bakugo's not a dumbass. Like that's something that we've been shown since the beginning of the story is
Oh,
that
yeah.
he's a
Top
hothead,
grades. Yeah.
he likes to fight, but he's like top 4 in his class. He's smart and he's not just like your classic dunce idiot. So I was very happy with the fact that we were able to see him, like Deanna said, act very calmly
Yeah.
and kind of reason why he has this theory and give like supporting evidence as to why he believes this is the case. And so I'm very excited to see the fight between the two of them animated finally, because in the manga it was very well done. So I'm excited.
But what if Bakugo is actually Toga in disguise? No.
Oh my god.
Maybe that kind of be bizarre. I like Toga as a character a lot, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she does. But yeah, Bakugo really shined here, and so it's going to be kind of crazy next week. Continues rolling on as a great show that, and I just like the fact that everyone gets their time. You know, that's the important thing about the show is that they revisit characters a lot, and that's important. So, on that note, then, I think we've gotten pretty much everything. Yes, we can finally move on to Trigun. So, first things first, Trigun was a recap episode. So, episode 13 was, except for the last few minutes, what we get to see is a little bit of what Vash's body looks like. And I try to take a still shot of that for people watching. But yeah, that is quite the messed up body that he has. You can see metal plates covering his heart, tons of scars, a lot of missing skin, like places that he's been like, I guess, I don't know if it's stapled up or like nailed up. I don't know like what patch of these skins is going on with this body, but it's pretty messed up. It's trying to stay alive for as long as he did in this kind of environment. So it goes to show that, you know, he hasn't been able to get through this, you know, scratch free. You know, clearly he's been hurt a lot. He did blow up that one episode, but I guess we never really found out what was going on with inside that reactor. But that's another thing. But yeah, that was what this episode mostly was, except for, like I said, the last few minutes. But the episode 14 is where things get pretty exciting. I don't know. It's kind of weird because coming out of a recap episode, you kind of think that they would go right back into the story, and we would find more about, you know, these mysterious figures that are playing in the background. But here, though, it's that Meryl and Millie who are the two insurance ladies. They've been hired on as bodyguards to protect a geoplant, which is one of the last remaining places. I think this might be the first episode where we actually see trees, because so far it's been just desert wasteland, from all the chaos and destruction that's gone on in this western land. So what we get is Banwick, who's a bandit, has been trying to convince his parents, who own the geo plant, to give up the land to this, I don't know, this tycoon character. I don't know, this really bizarre guy. But then Maryland, Nebraska, and friends show up, which is an offshoot of the Nebraska family. I guess they're all part of the same group. The gigantic, like 200 feet tall monsters. Like, they have not really explained how they came to be. Maybe it's some weird, like, they fell into a radioactive waste or something and became what they are. But yeah, like it definitely felt like a filler episode for sure. I mean, we get some moments here where Meryl really shined, as far as, you know, she became a really cool character, as she has been. And, you know, the whole thing was like Millie continues to communicate with her entire family. It was nice how she had to stay up all night just to write to her entire family, because she has so many people to write individual letters to. But yeah, it was kind of a nothing episode, and that's kind of a shame. And I hope that it kind of picks up from here. I imagine it will, considering we're only in episode 14. It was kind of sweet at moments, but that was kind of my opinion of it. What did you think, Deanna?
Episode 14 was great because Vash took a backseat, and then Meryl and Millie became the leads.
Yes.
And then it's even funnier because Vash, he like pops in to like make that shot that Meryl was kind of like, did I really make that shot? But he's like in this trash can or something, and then he breaks the fourth wall, and he's like, is that all the time that I get?
Apparently that's also from the manga too. That's perfect that they put that in there. That's awesome.
Yeah. So this episode, it seems like family is the central theme, and the fact that we get to learn more about Meryl and Millie's family, like Millie with all her nephews and nieces, but Meryl having this kind of estranged relationship with her family because, I don't know, she just stopped writing to them. But it's also interesting because the one episode that's about family, Vash isn't really present, so I don't know if that's because they want to put Meryl and Millie at the forefront, or it's because like Vash can't really relate to that concept of a family, because we don't really know much about his background, but I think we can, like, we probably know that he doesn't have a family really.
No, I mean, if it's for so long ago, it seems like he tripped through time. Maybe, we don't know yet. It seems like they're alluding to that, but it seems like he's lost everything at this point. So, but boy.
Also, I guess giants are normal to see every day.
Yeah.
Which is like a unique element of the world building. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I also
voicing Marilyn's mom must have been a riot.
Oh yeah.
I laughed every time she was on screen.
I mean, we're like gorilla just crying.
Or whale.
Oh, whale, yeah, that's what it sounds like. Ooh.
She like throws her sons, but then gets sad when they get shot.
Just like someone like in a voice acting booth, like, all right, I have to really, ooh. dig deep for this one. It was great, and how like the daughter understood everything that she was saying, like even the small words. Don't cry. One of your sons got hurt. I don't know. Like, what's up with that family where the daughter looks absolutely normal and then the mom looks like that? Like, I just imagine the childbirth. it's like oh, it's just like, oh, it just fell. Just whatever.
I'd rather not imagine it.
Oh, okay.
But thank you.
All right, sure, fine. But yeah, it was a very charming episode. It makes me think, I wonder if we'll ever get to see Millie's family at some point, like the entire crew. That'd be kind of crazy to see like a house full of people. But yeah, they continue to be super adorable. I love Millie and Meryl's characters a lot, and so as Deanna, as you said, like, it was great to have them be the highlight of an episode for a change. Don't know how many more episodes that'll happen, but for now, perfect. And it's also a good place to have it, because then towards the end of the whole series, we'll get to really get into things, and it's nice to kind of take a step back. So I definitely see where you guys are coming from. It's probably better off as a result that way. Any final thoughts about anything you guys saw this week? Not really. Not really. Okay. Well, cool. We'll wrap things up then. So yeah, thank you Deanna, and Nushaw, being a part of this podcast. Thank you all out there for listening to Anime Review. I am your host, Zach Reese. Catch us next week for yet another edition of Anime Review. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Later.